Emily is Rachel Madrone, who's a current student in the same program. Welcome, Rachel. And last but not least is Chris Mundy, who's a current student as well, a dual enrollment student in the AMT program. Welcome. All right, and to start us off, first, Emily, wanted to ask you, we'll go down the line here. Could each of you share a bit about how you found your way to Nunez Community College and why you chose the Aerospace Manufacturing Technology program?
I've always been fascinated with space. I would say one of my friends had recently graduated from the program, and I was looking for something to do in my life, and this seemed the most interesting, so I dove in first. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you for sharing that. And just remember for everyone, keep the mic as close as you can so folks can hear. And then, Rachel, I want to ask you the same question.
Before I answer this, I want to say I do have a German problem and speech impairment. So if you need me to talk up, you give me a signal, or if you need me to repeat, give me a signal. I won't do it. I just want to let you know that. Since I was a kid, I always read books of science and stuff. And when I got into high school, they had these field trips. I got to speak to a lot of colleges, the national people. And when I got into that, I really wanted to do something straight. I was interested, and I always did a trying to build things, so I got where I wanted to do aerospace. So I could build bottom shields.
Thanks, Rachel. And how about for you, Chris?
So from a very young age, all the media I consumed had something else to do with aerospace engineering. First time I opened a Green Lantern comic, Hal Jordan was test piloting F-16s. First time I remember watching a movie, my dad was showing me Star Wars, and I was enjoying watching the X-Wings zip around in space. And that really influenced my desire to learn more about engineering and learn more about how things like rockets and jets were manufactured and assembled. And then one day I found out that a family friend was a coordinator with dual enrollment at Chalmette, and I decided to go into the aerospace manufacturing program through dual enrollment and take classes with Nunez while still in high school.
That's awesome, and we'll get into that in a bit with the dual enrollment model. I'll ask you that next, Chris. So could you share more details about how the dual enrollment program works between your high school, Chalmette High School, and Nunez Community College, and how this program has met your needs and supported your career goals?
So dual enrollment works through students apply in sophomore or junior year, depending on how many years your program takes, and you'll spend 2 class periods a day on Chalmette High campus taking your general education classes, English, math, all of those things. And then for 2 class periods out of the day, you'll get on the bus, drive however you get there, go to Nunez, and actually start taking your courses in welding, electrical. Some people go for nursing certifications or aerospace manufacturing programs, and you'll take those courses there and get your college credits so that you can either graduate with certifications for a technical skill or graduate in Iowa with an associate's degree. And it really helps you figure out not only what you want to do in your future through programs like 2 semesters of electrical, 1 semester of welding, things like that, to help you figure out, is it something for you? And even if it's not, you've got the skills in case you need the job eventually. But it also helps expedite you into the next step in your life, where it can save you 2 years from payments and stuff for college, or just save you the time of finding out 2 years after you graduated, no, it's only for me.
That's awesome. So hearing the opportunity for career exploration for young people in high school to see different paths that are available, and then that accelerated model. And I've done a lot myself with dual enrollment. There are many different examples and models. I think learning about Nunez Community College's program and hearing Chris's story of graduating high school with a 2-year associate's degree is just remarkable. It's such a fascinating program and model. to really put students on a path towards a career with a certificate and then potentially a degree with an opportunity to join the workforce or continue forward in your education. So appreciate you sharing more of the details of that. And if you to design a program that's that effective. So Rachel, I want to come back to you and ask you as a student in your first year of the program at Nunez, what has been most helpful to you in terms of resources, supports, and any of the program elements?
This is actually the reason why I chose Nunez. They make sure I have all my foundations on my ADHD. Like, they give me patience, they let me answer questions, they give me a set time on my test, book, everything I need to do. And Mr. Jodine, Mr. Lloyd, and all my other teachers at Nunez, they're always there for me. If I need help, they're right there to answer all my questions. I always email them, look, I can't find nothing, they send me the link and stuff, and make sure I have all the equipment I need, build battle, bill, and everything. So, you guys is really a great school club.
Yes, I'm very student-centered. So, Emily, I wanted to ask you, you enrolled in the aerospace program at Nunez after entering the workforce and working full-time for some time to support your family. Could you elaborate on what the program did well to meet your needs as a parent in the program as well as a working student?
Yeah, Nunez has a very flexible school schedule, which helped a lot with arranging daycare and my work schedule in order to meet my academic needs. It helped a lot to be able to occasionally bring my kids with me. It motivated me to stay in the program because I didn't have a reason to say, oh, I can't do this, because I could bring my children with me. I could still go to class and then go to work, or work on the days that I didn't have class. So it helped a lot being able to work around my life outside of education.
So the program designed for busy individuals, modern learners who may be working full-time, part-time, may have families, or is it 1 in 5 community college students across the country, or parenting students. And I know, Emily, you had shared earlier about your entry into the program, and you talked about that before, but just being able to work on rockets. You want to share that a little bit more?
I have 2 little boys, 4 and 3, and so I thought it would be so cool to be able to have my kids say, oh, my mom works on rocket ships, and it's just, I want my kids to be proud of me. So this program gave me the ability to find something that I love doing and something that I'm excited to share with my kids.
And then the accommodations that the faculty have, where if you had a situation where you needed to address a child care challenge, you could bring your kid to class, and that was okay, and just accommodating of the faculty to recognize the realities that students have.
Yeah, there were several times where I had to bring at least one of my kids with me, and Mr. Jardine would let one of them come up to the board and work out potential problems or draw on the board, and it was great to be able to bring my kids and have them watch me do something that I love and enjoy.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to stay with you, Emily, since you're now working in your field of studies. So seeing from a different vantage point after graduating, I wanted to ask if you could share more about your current work, how the Nunez program helped prepare you to enter into this field and your specific job. And this is a few questions in one. What were the most helpful elements of the program looking back? And is there anything you would change?
Yeah, so I work in LFI for my contractor with Lockheed Martin. The Nunez program, all of the instructors that they have teaching this program all have several years of experience in the field that they're teaching. So it's not just from education from books, it's education from being in this situation and having the hands-on experience and being able to turn around and teach us in a way that we can take to work and it not just be relying on just book smarts. So that was extremely helpful. It prepared me in a lot of ways in what to expect when I go to work and the projects that we work on. I wouldn't necessarily change anything, I would just add a little more in-depth projects that would be more relative to what we do.
That's helpful. Thank you for sharing that. So project-based learning and more, even though that's a big part of the program and having faculty who've done the work in industry and bring that to the classroom and the lab. So appreciate you sharing that. And Rachel wanted to ask you a similar question. So you're in your first year again, colleges, we know always have opportunities for growth and improvement. So I wanted to ask you, what more do you think colleges can do to meet the needs of students in career technical education programs like yours at Nunez Community College?
The first thing I think we should have field trips to put us into the realize of what they do in their job. To show us, look, we gotta do this with the metal, we gotta do calculation, we get to watch the people being their hands on the box. And the second thing, it would be good if we have more equipment in case we break things. I know I've done a lot of things about if we have extra material, then we have more likely to have extra things to practice on, to build, to drill, have more drill bits, like everything we need in that class.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just thinking about the equipment that you see in the classroom or the lab, ideally is what you're going to see in the workforce. And echoing Emily's point. So I think those are great suggestions. And then Chris wanted to ask you, as a dual enrollment student, what more do you think high schools and or colleges can do to enhance the student experience in dual enrollment career technical education programs like yours also at Nunez Community College to help students achieve their goals?
The biggest thing that I could say that the high schools could do is the high schools could better display what dual enrollment options are presented. Because whenever the sophomores are talking about, oh, I'm thinking about joining dual enrollment for this or that, they only really know about the career technical stuff such as welding, electrical, or the nursing programs. They're not aware of almost any of the associated programs we have in things like coastal sciences, aerospace engineering, educational mathematics. There's so many more options for a dual enrollment student at Charlotte to take, and so many more dual enrollment options for high school students in general that so many students don't know about because they only know about things like HVAC, welding, and these other more trade-based studies they can take.
So it's career exploration, but it's also just awareness of the different pathways that are accessible to students through dual enrollment. And to have your high school have so many is just inspiring, because I know not every school district is able to go to that length, but whatever they are, and I think that's an invitation maybe for schools to not allow even more of those dual enrollment pathways as is possible, to create even more awareness and then invitation to pursue whatever the students' interests are. So appreciate your take on that, and I wanted to ask each of you a question. So this conference is a fantastic gathering of educators, administrators, workforce professionals, and industry partners from around the country that are engaged in student success and dynamic career pathways from K-12 through community and technical colleges and into the workforce with good jobs and careers. So I wanted to ask you, what's the most important piece of advice you would offer the conference attendees from your own experience as students at Nunez Community College to bring back to their own settings and communities? And we'll start with you, Chris.
workplace and bring it to a place of learning like Nunez is you have to bring whatever passion inspired you to be an educator, whatever made you want to teach that subject, you need to bring that with you into the classroom. You need to try to, whatever inspired you to want to teach, you should try to inspire in your students. Because if it's clear that you're just there because you're getting a paycheck for it, the student's not going to learn any better than if they were just sitting there and given the textbook and told to figure it out. It's all about the passion that you bring into the classroom and all about how you go about educating them.
And that makes a difference for students that when they see and feel that passion.
It makes a world of difference when you can tell there's passion.
Great advice. Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you the same question, Rachel.
Well, when the most important advice is when you think you can't do nothing, don't give up. Keep trying and trying because anything is possible for you to achieve. You just have to keep looking out for us. Don't let nothing bring you down. If someone comes at you, just be nice, kill the fight with the kindness. And Mr. Jardine told me this is all the classroom in First Scout there. Bring your notebook and pen and keep them outside until you actually know what you do. I'm not saying Mrs. What that he taught us. If you play something in a job or in class, let them know because that can either get you fired or you get rid of us. So make sure you let them know you play something in the job.
So,
Do the right thing.
that's awesome. So communication for sure. And then also not giving up. And I think that's advice for students, but it's also for teachers, faculty, administrators to really convey that to students. Because these programs are challenging and they take perseverance. Looking at Dr. Parker again, describing your journey. So that makes a difference to hear when students may have doubt, question, different realities to keep going and persevere. So I appreciate that. And Emily, the same question to you.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me, education-wise, between high school and college is the way I was treated. With education, if you want your students to succeed, you have to give a little more empathy and a little more understanding that not everybody learns in the same way, not everybody has the same home life that you do. I had kids, I think I was 25 when I went back to college. I'll be honest, I hated high school. I was terrified to go back to college because I was scared that I wasn't going to be treated like an adult, and I very much was an adult. I had 2 kids of my own. I needed somebody to understand that I'm here because I want a better life for myself and for my children, and being treated with just a little more understanding and a little more empathy went such a long way in standing my ground and staying within the program. It was to be respected as an adult while I was in the middle of my education made the biggest difference. I don't mean as far as like giving anybody too much leniency or being a little too easy. I don't mean in that aspect. I mean as far as giving a little bit of a grace period because I was working, I had kids, I couldn't turn in assignments exactly when they had to be turned in, and it bothered me because I don't like being late, I don't like asking for exceptions, but if we could just give a little more empathy with students as far as, I'm here, I want a better life, and this is my pathway to earn that better life.
Thank you for sharing that, and I think that's but just being flexible and recognizing students are coming to the classroom with again, complex realities, and being sensitive and considerate to that with empathy. So I want to talk about a topic that essentially is what this panel is. It's student voice. And so I think it's so important for all of the organizations in the room that are represented to continue to listen to students to understand what is working and where there may be opportunities for improvement. So I want to ask each of you how these specific organizations represented in the room, from your perspective, can better listen to learners, students, and workers to develop even more effective programs, supports, partnerships, and policies. And in asking this question, I'm going to divide it up with the three of you for some of the different stakeholders here. So first, Rachel, we'll ask you, how can community colleges listen to students further?
When first time going to school, you don't know what to look for, things. It's best for y'all to let the student know, you gotta look on campus, you gotta look in your student portal, and let them know that that's where you look for information. If the pass canceled, if the bus not coming, if you get picked up by a bus from high school to college. So it's good to have good communication with your students. Because when I first went to semester, I kept trying to call the school to see if it was open, because I'm finding my school ID. And no one answered the phone. I found out I was supposed to look on campus, but no one ever told me that. So it's good to have good communication with them all the time, send them messages, email them, any way how you can do it.
And in particular, at the beginning, when students don't know all the systems, the tools, as they're just getting started, and that's overwhelming for anyone as you're stepping into this new role as a community college student.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, and really helpful. And so, Chris wanted to ask you the same question, not from the lens of community colleges, but more importantly, the lens of a school district. So how can school districts listen to students even further to continue to improve programs, policies, and partnerships?
I think that the way they can listen further is to kind of take a step back and see that even though students giving their input about things within the district, even though we're still teenagers, we're still not fully formed adults yet, that our input can still be taken seriously. Because I feel like there's a lot of stigma against listening to someone younger than you, especially when they're not an adult yet, because you don't think they understand what they're fully talking about, you don't think they understand what they're asking for, what their input actually means. I think that school districts can really listen better by just listening to our voices, not as teens or as kids, but as people, listening to us as though we're maybe not exactly equals, but as though we still have a seat at the table.
I would say input can be taken serious. I wouldn't say can be, should be, because you're students in the program and you have goals, and the school district in partnership with a community college and others are here to support those goals, and we can all continue to learn from students who offer so many insights. So appreciate that perspective. And Emily, I want to ask you the same question from the lens of an employer and for a workforce partner agency. So how can employers and workforce entities, organizations listen to workers or learners even further?
Yeah, so with Joaquin specifically, we have weekly meetings where we're all brought into the same room and we're asked the same questions, given the same information, and we're all treated like partners. There's no, we know who our supervisor is, but we're all treated like we matter, like our opinions matter, and that goes across the board with education and workforce, as far as they'll ask, what can be done? What are you worried about? Is there a policy or a procedure that you're concerned about that goes against another policy or procedure? It's really develop a relationship within your company, because then if there really is an issue or a problem, you are confident enough to know that your employee will come to you instead of keeping quiet and keeping it to themselves. Because I mean, in the space industry, it can be dangerous if there's something that is out of spec or it's done out of policy and procedure. It could be detrimental. It could be harmful. You know, we work with a lot of dangerous equipment, heavy machinery. So being able to speak to your superiors and feeling like you are heard makes the biggest difference.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think it also, we were talking about this before the panel, when there's a culture where employees feel like they can speak up and share their observations, their thoughts, their recommendations, it also then improves retention, right? You feel like you're...
Especially being, I came into this career knowing that I am in a male-dominated field. I am the only technician, the only female technician on the floor, surrounded by nothing but men. Thankfully, it's an environment where I feel comfortable, I feel heard, I feel seen and accepted, and I haven't had an issue. And I've been in those jobs where being a woman is just not good enough, you know. But here within the space industry, between where I work and with NASA, I'm no different. You know, they still listen to me just like they listen to everybody else and accept what I have to say. So, you know, it doesn't matter if I'm a woman or not. I'm still listened to. So, and I'm comfortable. It makes a really big difference in staying with that specific company and within that, within the group of people that you work with. It makes a big difference.
That's awesome. So we do have a little bit of time at the end for questions. I have one last question for each of you, and this is really what's the next step on your education and your career journey? And we'll start with you, Emily, and come back down.
So I currently have my associates in aerospace manufacturing. I'm looking to continue on with getting my bachelor's in electrical engineering. It's exciting.
How your employer is supporting educational pathway?
Yeah, Lockheed offers a tuition reimbursement program. So, I mean, there's a certain number of degrees that you can choose from, but as long as they align with what the company does, they do offer tuition reimbursement, which is a huge help. It'll make a really big difference in being able to continue my education.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And how about for you, Rachel?
Well, I have a little story to tell the story. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go for a bachelor's degree in aerospace technician and to get my license. I want to work for NASA or Delta Airlines. And I want to add some special people in this. So I work at the APA and GAT. So I'm basically pushing wheelchairs up the ramp down, stacking up and put them away. Well, they got mechanics for Delta that's down there, and they know I want to become a mechanic for aerospace. So they asked when I'm on my way to actually get me to come near them and they teach me what I need to know. They tell me how I get my license and stuff. And they actually gonna hold me a spot in the job if I want to go work for them, to go to help them with their airplanes. One of the bosses, he's not the boss of the mechanic, but his name is Mr. Steve. he said he will talk to the boss of the mechanic and vouch for me. Also, the mechanic's gonna vouch for me to me get the job in Delta Airlines. So I'm glad they let me talk about them in the speech.
How cool is that? So how about for you, Chris?
My next step after I graduate in May is to, in the fall, start college out in Mississippi to continue my studies in aerospace manufacturing and go for a bachelor's in aerospace engineering at Mississippi State University.
There's more to that too. You want to share how your experience at your high school and the dual enrollment program and at Nunez has positioned you, prepared you for that?
Well, it's positioned me into a spot where even though I'll be graduating one of the youngest in my class, I'll still be starting at university, transferring over all of my credits, and starting as a third-year engineering student instead of a first year when I go to college.
That's amazing. What a remarkable pathway designed for students to be able to accelerate that right into the third year of an engineering bachelor's program. So we do have a few minutes and there's mics out still if anyone has a question for any of the three students.
Might not be one. One of my big questions, Laura, is when you were in high school, did they give you enough information about what you were going to face when you went to college? Because I find my program, my college program, that's the hardest part. Because high school is so different than college, that a lot of kids come in thinking that it's an extension of high school, and they don't really understand all the rules and how much more layers it is. So that's my question to you guys. At your high school, did they make sure that you knew all the post-secondary procedures, like how to apply, how to financial aid, how to explore degree majors?
For my high school specifically, they did not.
What about you, Rachel?
My high school, they taught us how to do financial aid. I actually was in honors social, and they had this little program for us and taught us how to fast and stuff, everything we need to do. But they didn't have no program for me to do aerospace, so I just went to learn regular classes. I'm gonna say this: a lot of high schools, many teachers, they do not know how to teach where people have ADHD and stuff. There's a lot of for us, so I wish they a lot of people learn how to understand us and stuff to help us to teach us better. Because a lot of us, we read something, but we need to visualize it if they talk. Especially when someone like me with hard of hearing and hard to focus. So it's good to they talk or hand us a sheet of paper so we can visualize it.
How about you, Chris?
My high school does not do well in preparing students in terms of what college will be like. The dual enrollment program does a better job at it at explaining that if you want to go to this program, you are not going to have the traditional high school experience. You're going to have to forego some of that in trade for getting your certifications or getting a degree in these things.
Okay, I was just asking because I know that my high schools do not. You know, I think kids come into the community colleges. What do you mean they gotta go to school every day? I didn't have to go to school every day in high school, so they really don't understand that responsibility as shifted. In high school, the teachers, the principals, the superintendent, they're all responsible for your education. But once you go to post-secondary, you're the only one responsible, and that's a very huge shift. So I wish that the high school would work a little bit more on that. Okay? I'm out.
So I think we have time for one more question. And it looks like someone's coming up. If not, I've got one from the app.
Chris, this one's for you. Did you have to navigate going to Mississippi, or did your program have an agreement with Mississippi so that you could enter right as a third-year student? No.
We had a college and career night at Chalmette where a bunch of colleges sat down with representatives to talk about them and get information about them. And through that event, I did find out that in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama, the only college that has an aerospace program outside of community college where I could transfer over and continue studying it was Mississippi State.
We have to prove it.
All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up our student panel. I would just ask if you could join me in giving a round of applause.
Well done.